How to heal your inner child. This is going to be a no BS guide touching on some powerful concepts that I've discovered over the last couple of months in my own journey. I've been going on my own self-development journey for the last 10 to 15 years. I'm 34 years old now, but I never understood the concepts that I want to share with you in this video. That way you can heal your own inner child, because we live our whole lives unconsciously programmed based off of the previous experiences we've had in our lives. Experiences that were completely out of our control. Some of these experiences we don't even remember, but your body and your subconscious experience them, and it has shaped and influenced the way that you think, the way you move, the way you react to certain triggers in your environment right now. And if you don't become aware of this, if you can't heal your inner child, you'll forever be a slave to those areas of your life. So let's get into this, because the first thing to understand is you need to develop that relationship with your inner child. It sounds kind of weird. I'm not going to go hippie spiritual guy on you in this video. I want to give you some practical stuff, because I was always against therapy. I was always against what is this inner child BS thing, right? But this last year, I really got more in touch with it. Once I went full sobriety mode and I went celibacy for 100 days, hit an early wake up time, hitting the gym, eating a whole foods diet. I went super clean on everything, and I really got a lot of clarity on things. And what I realized is you need to actively create the relationship with your inner child. And typically the most crucial developmental stages of us being born till now is up till age 7, right? So think back to ages 0 to 7 in your own life. And if you could imagine you at 7 years old, or you at any traumatic experience that happened at a young age, you want to start to think back to those times. What were you into? What were the interests you were into? What was going on in your life? Actually go back and try to live it just as an exercise, okay? Just bear with me. This is going to get into some deeper stuff as I go through this video. Bear with me for 1 second though, because you want to start to develop the relationship about who were you? Go back and reenact that in your own mind. Who were you hanging out with? What was a memorable day that you did? Imagine the environment, the school, the house, the game, the person, the friend, the activity, you doing that thing, the thoughts you had back then. The more you can have clarity on that, the more you can start to tap into that inner child, that younger version of yourself, that 7-year-old dude, right? I had that 7-year-old dude in my mind, but I also have the 12-year-old dude in my mind. The 12-year-old was pivotal for me because that's when my dad died. And so I wanted to really tap into that. But also there was some smaller traumatic experiences that happened growing up. One of them for me was my mom and dad fighting in the living room. My dad drunk off of his ass. My dad passed away when I was 12 from drugs and alcohol, but there was a memory of my mom and my dad in the living room, and she was screaming at him. And she had every reason to be screaming at him. Dude was drunk off his ass. He couldn't even hold the cereal bowl in his hand he was holding the bowl. She was telling him, "You're drunk. You're fucking drunk right now. Look at you. Look at you." And he's trying to play it off like nothing was wrong. And literally he can't even hold the bowl straight. The milk is pouring out onto the living room rug, right? And she's screaming at him, but I'm so young at the time that I didn't even realize what was going on. And honestly, I really liked my dad. So I was sitting there wondering why she was doing this. And I had this urge at the time to want to defend him. Wanted to defend him for all this stuff. And I'm going to tie this into the later points in this video, because this is important for you to understand the moments that you had in your life. Because the way that shaped me was that I get triggered when people start to raise their voice at me, even slightly. It doesn't even need to be directly at me, but I have this trigger when there's a certain tone being displayed a certain way. I get very defensive, right? And it's happened in both of my relationships, especially with my last girlfriend. She really triggers. She has this ever so slightly aggressive tone. It's really not that crazy a lot of times, but it will trigger me very easily. And when I wasn't aware of these concepts, I would emotionally react and explode in these moments, especially when you get lost in red pill content online and not trying to be beta and not letting the girl control you and giving girls ultimatums if they're either about it or she's not, otherwise tell that girl to fuck off. A lot of those things ended up hurting me in my last relationship because I wasn't aware of my own triggers, but more importantly, I wasn't aware of the reasons why those triggers were happening to me. And this is why you need to get in touch with your inner child. And honestly, guys, I wasn't even able to tap into some of this stuff until I started going to therapy. And we started talking about the traumatic experiences that happened. What was my relationship like with my parents? What do I remember negatively from my upbringing? And then there's certain images that started to happen. And it's not just that one, you're gonna have a bunch. Some of them you can't even consciously remember right now. It's not until you're deep into a therapy session or you do some deep spiritual work that you could really tap into some of these reasons. I have random memories that I didn't even remember for 10, 15, 20 years. I suddenly got access to it one day when I was deep into a therapy session, only because of the questions I was being asked and me spending 30 to 60 minutes concentrating, going deep into memories, right? And so the reason that all of this is important though, is because once you understand why you react a certain way in an environment, it creates separation in real time, and you start to disassociate from, it's not my girlfriend that even triggered me. I'm triggered because of this thing that happened internally from long, long ago. And that allows you to not explode on the other person. And this is also important because step number one is creating that relationship with your inner child. One other final thing for point number one, another exercise I did with my therapist was, I was really big into basketball. I used to always play basketball. My dad built me a basketball court in my backyard. And I went to the park recently and I played a game of horse with my 8-year-old, 9-year-old self. Right? I played a shooting game of basketball in the park. I haven't played basketball in years, ever since I tore my calf. I have a smaller calf, if you guys don't notice that, but I have one calf that's a little bit smaller. It's because I got hurt playing basketball a couple years ago. Haven't been back on the court, but recently I went back and played a game of horse with my 7-year-old self. And I started talking to him, asking him about what's going on in his life, imagining how I would answer the questions, developing that relationship, having a laugh with him. And I know this sounds a little weird, guys. This is solely an exercise to allow you to tap in and strengthen the relationship with your inner child. And it was really weird for me at first too, but I didn't understand why I was doing all of this. The reason is to understand that guy, which will then in turn create separation from when you get triggered now. Because now when you get triggered, it's not about the person that triggered you. It's about this thing that happened a long time ago that you need to be aware of. If you're not aware of your triggers, it's gonna be really hard to consciously, proactively stop them. And that's gonna get into the final point of this video, because that's how you're actually gonna heal, right? So you strengthen the relationship with the inner child. You bring awareness to why those things happen. You can even go back, reenact those situations, and give your inner child the reassurance it needed. I did this too in therapy. I went back and gave my inner child, we reenacted some of these memories of these times that happened with me. And I went back in real time and imagined myself with that inner child and actually gave him the reassurance and gave him the answers he needed back then. And honestly, even though it sounds weird, I had this very strong urge to cry in a lot of these moments in real time because I had stored trauma. And I didn't go through anything crazy. This is why I know it's applicable to you too, guys. You just haven't tapped into a lot of this stuff yet. But you have stored trauma inside, and that drives a lot of the things that you have going on in your day-to-day now. Not just with women either. Women's a big one, because what you'll find out later on in this video is that once you start dating a girl more and more, they're gonna expose the traumas. And I'll get to that in the last part. But once you go back, once you become aware of the inner child more, then you can, number two, go back and relive those experiences, dive deeper into those experiences, but also heal yourself from those. Go back and give yourself the reassurance you needed. It's not gonna fully heal you, but it is going in the right direction. It's gonna strengthen the awareness, and it's gonna heal it a little bit. And if you actually feel the urge to cry and allow yourself to, because honestly, guys, I don't allow myself to cry anymore. I don't allow myself to cry anymore. Not because I'm intentionally trying to do that. It's been quite a long time since I've actually cried. And I try to cry, honestly. Even in some of these moments with my therapist, I have a strong urge to cry. Those are the first times I've had urges to cry in a very long time. It's because I've suppressed some of these things over years and years and years, because of my dad dying, because of my first girlfriend leaving me for this other dude, and me having this whole traumatic experience, crying every day for a month after that thing, and then developing this identity of a dude who could be successful with women that's not going to struggle with that ever again, and putting up all of these walls. Like a lot of dudes I see out there that are honestly, a lot of these dudes are successful, but part of the reason is because they've put all these walls up. They build walls to prevent themselves from ever being in a vulnerable position with a woman, with a person again. And then the moment that one of those things does get exposed or triggered, they have this urge to go against what's going on, they either dismiss the person or they run away from the thing, or they make a justification as to why they need this other thing. Like that was me in my relationships, making these justifications as to why I can never be with a woman long term. That wasn't the only justification. I've had so many. I'm sure you guys have different ones, but I just need to bring awareness to those things. And over time, you're going to heal them, which brings me into the final point is that, yes, it's great to do the reflection, to strengthen, to give the reassurance. But then if you really want to change long term, long term, if you really want to change, you need to change the behaviors, which is the most difficult part, is to actually get triggered, have an urge, have a desire to want to do something, especially if you're being extremely triggered on that thing, and then act in the new way, act in the new behavior. Good morning. Act in the new behaviors despite you being triggered in those moments. The only way you're even going to be able to do that is to have a lot of awareness going into those moments, and to be able to do a reflection every time you do get triggered and how you react. All right? It's very difficult to just fix instantly. It takes repetition. It takes reflection. It takes this analytical review of your past. It's strengthening that relationship with your inner child. Healing the inner child, putting in the work, not turning to drugs and alcohol to escape when you have urges, not turning to porn and masturbation and lust in these moments when you have these urges or desires. No, you go and face those things head on. Face those things head on, man. And that's why a lot of dudes that I see that are even in pickup and dating or successful with a lot of women, they never really heal this thing, because they go in, there's an urge, and then at some point it doesn't work out. But really what happens is you didn't commit to the thing long term to really put in the uncomfortable work. A lot of people don't heal because they don't want to lock in and do the uncomfortable work long term. They'd rather stay in the short-term gratification loop. Right? And when things get really tough, they can't stick in that part. And I'm guilty of this too. I am not healed by any means. I'm going through the whole process, guys. But nobody explained this shit to me. There's nobody talking about this shit online. Nobody explained this to me. Not with women. Not when my dad died. Nothing. So I'm trying to share this with you guys right now. But understand that if you are with a partner long term, it's a great opportunity to heal yourself. Because the partner will be the prime source of what's going to expose the traumas inside. And most of the times when I see that relationships don't work out, it's simply because they weren't able to frequently communicate from a healthy place. They weren't both aware of the inner child of each other and themselves, and they didn't stick through it. They turned to vices, or they made justification bullshit stories why it wasn't going to work out long term. And it's because of all of those reasons that it fails. And it's not an easy path, bro. It is not an easy path by any means, but if I look at relationships, majority of relationships, even ones that are still together, it's typically just because people justified staying together, but they didn't actually heal. I don't have that many, if any, relationships that come to my mind where I'm like, that is the highest quality, admirable relationship. I haven't seen it. It's going to be on me to show it to the world. I've assumed responsibility for that. That's cool. I will do this shit properly. Nobody showed me how to do it. I have no role models that actually show me how to have a happy, healthy relationship. Haven't seen it, and no one talks about these concepts, but that's how it's done, guys. You need to bring awareness to your past, strengthen that relationship, dive deeper into that. You can start by doing it with yourself. You can use therapy as well. I think it's a great tool. I wouldn't be able to get to the level I'm at without that. You're gonna need some level of reflection. There's gonna be exercises. Then you're gonna need to also expose the traumas and the triggers in real time, and nothing changes until you change your behaviors. And over time, that's how you can actually heal yourself. That's how you can really heal yourself. And as you're going through the whole process, you'll be able to level up your confidence, your mindset, all these other areas of your life too, because it's shackling you and you don't even realize it. If you want to fast track the whole process, guys, if you want to work with me directly to level up your confidence, your dating life, your relationships, your business, your content, just become top 1% of men, click the button down below. Check out the brand new coaching programs. I'd love to work with you personally to help you make a transformation in your own life. That's all for this video, fellas. See you tomorrow. Peace out. Let's go.